Hey guys, welcome back. In the next 2 hours, you're going to learn how to build a complete full stack application from scratch using MERN Stack. This is not just any project, but a fully functional note-taking application that you can use and add to your portfolio. In this tutorial, we're diving into MongoDB, Express, React, Node, and we're styling with Tailwind CSS to build a modern, clean, and scalable website. You won't just be watching, you'll be building alongside, step by step, from setting up frontend to creating a powerful backend and connecting everything to a real database. By the end of this video, you understand how to structure a real-world MERN Stack application. You will understand how to build and connect APIs. You would learn how to manage states and handle user inputs and also create a fully working application from start to finish. Whether you're a beginner or you're an intermediate, this tutorial is best for you. This is going to be a game changer tutorial for you. So grab your laptop, get comfortable, and let's build something amazing together. So this is what we're going to be building. We have this ebook here at the navigation. Now we have a button on the right section. This is basically it. We have the library here, manage and organize your personal notes. We have our notes here. So currently, you can see right here that the library is currently empty. You can start capturing your ideas, meetings, and daily tasks if you click on this button or click on this button. So I'm going to start with this button right here. Once you click on this, it leads you to this create URL here, and you're going to see create a note, capture your thoughts, and organize your library. So you start with the title, then the contents. Then you hit this button, the note will be created. So I'm just going to write my contents diary. Then I'll have like a description. If I click on create new notes, I'm going to get a message here, notes created successfully. I can see it right here that the note has been created successfully. Then we no longer see that empty page we were seeing earlier because we have something in our library already. Now for the library note, let me create another one. My coding journey. Then here, click on this button, you get the same notification. Now you can see that we have a card for each of the notes that has been created. So you can create as many cards as possible, and then you're going to see them right here. Now you can view the details of this when you click on the card. You can view the details of this as well when you click on the card. Now I'm going to click on this now, and you would see this. The notes title is right here. This is it. Then the notes content, this is it. You can also edit right here. If you want to add more content to it, you can edit. Click on save changes, and you see that this has been added. Right, the dates when you created it as well would also be added. So let's say I created this today, I want to create another note tomorrow, the date is going to be automatically generated. You can also delete your notes using this icon, and you can edit as well. So let me click on delete. You get a notification here, are you sure you want to delete this note? Then you click on OK, the note has been deleted. So this is basically how you're going to create a new note, delete, edit. So this is more like a CRUD application. We're going to create, we can update, we can delete. So that's what we're going to be using. Let's get started. First thing you're going to do is to open your code editor. I'm going to be using VS Code for mine, and then navigate to file, click on open folder. When you click on open folder, you're going to create a project folder wherever you want it to be. It could be your desktop, you could do your document. So I'm going to be creating mine in documents. So right here, I'll click on new folder, and then I'm just going to have MERN notes app. Press enter, and then select the folder and open it in VS Code. Yes, I trust this also. Close this, close every other thing. And then once you have this now, you're going to create two other folders inside the project folder. So first, I'm going to start with the backend folder and also create the frontend folder. For this project, we're going to be starting with the backend. So I'm going to right click, create a new file, and I'm going to name it server.js. Okay, I'm going to close this for now. Then also I'll right click on the project folder once more, the backend folder, and then click on open an integrated terminal. Once I'm on the terminal, I'm going to type in this npm init, and then you're going to see this command here. The package name is backend, yes. Version 1.0, description, I have no description here. Entry point is server.js, yes. Test command, empty, git repo, keyword. Just keep pressing enter until you get here. Okay, and then your package.json would be created for you. Now, we need to install every dependencies and every other tool we're going to use for this project, for the backend to be precise, since we are on the backend. Okay, so I'm going to install npm install. For our backend, we're going to install NodeMon. I'm going to explain what each of them is for. We're going to install Express. We're going to install COS. I'm going to install .env. I'm going to install Mongoose. And then I'm going to press enter. So let me explain what each of them are for. So NodeMon, basically, let's start with NodeMon, is a tool that automatically restarts a Node.js application when it detects file changes. So if there's a file change, NodeMon is going to restart the server, basically. It's just going to restart it automatically, and then there will be a change and there will be an update. So that's what NodeMon is for. So the key benefit is that it speeds up development by reloading the app automatically, and it watches out for changes and restarts the server. So that's why we're using Node mode. Remember that this project is we're building it on Node, so we're going to be using Node mode. Next we have is Express. Express is a fast and minimalist backend web application framework for Node.js. It's a standard server framework for Node.js, and it simplifies and handles tasks like HTTP requests, routing, managing middleware that will be complex in raw Node.js. So we're going to be using Express as our backend framework. Then we have CORS. So CORS basically is a feature in web browsers that restrict how resources on a server can be accessed from different domains. So the CORS package basically in Node.js helps to configure access permission. Then we have .env. So .env is a package that loads environment variables, sensitive environment variable from a .env file into process.env, keeping the sensitive data secure and separate from the code. So we're using .env to secure our, let's say we have API keys. For this project, we're going to have API keys like our MongoDB URL. We're going to be having sensitive data basically that we do not want it to be part of the code, but it can be accessed from the file where it is saved. So that's why we have .env here. And also we have Mongoose. So Mongoose basically is a library for working with MongoDB in Node.js. It helps us structure data, define schemas, and interact with the database easily. So with Mongoose, we have no issue interacting with our MongoDB database when we're done setting it up. So these are all the tools and packages that we're going to be using in this tutorial. And if you can see right here in your package.json, it will be added to dependencies. So we have CORS here version 2.8.6, we have the TMV version 17.3.1, we have our Express, we have Mongoose, and we have Node1. So I hope you remember what each of them are for. I said CORS is a security features, is cross-origin resource sharing, which is a security feature in web browsers that restricts how resources on a server can be accessed from different domains. .env is a package that loads environment variable. It stores sensitive data and it loads it from a .env file, which we're going to create, and you're going to see how that works in action. Also, we have Express, which is our actual backend framework that we're using for this web application. We have Mongoose, which is a library that is used to work directly with MongoDB in Node.js. It helps us to structure data, define schemas, and interact with our database. While we have the NodeMon, which basically restarts our Node.js application when it detects a file change. So this is what we're going to be working with in this tutorial. Okay, so in our package.json, we're going to make a few changes. So the type here is going to be module, and then module DULE. Okay, and also I'm going to delete this line of code for tests. I'm going to replace it with server. Oh, come on, to be in between it, server, and the server is going to take nodemon server.js. Then I'll add a comma here. Okay, so let me collapse this a bit. All right, next thing we're going to do in the backend is to create the folders that we're going to be using for the backend project. So first folder would be our config. I'm going to explain what each of those folders are for. Second folder would be the controllers. The third folder would be for models. The fourth folder would be for routes. And then I'm going to create a file for .env, which is going to store our sensitive data basically. Now for config, the config folder is going to contain configuration files like our database connection, and we're going to use it to set up and manage the core app settings. Then the controllers folder basically is going to hold files that will undo logic for handling incoming requests, processing data, and sending responses. So the controllers function is going to undo request, processing data, getting data, sending out data, all the stuff. Then we have the model. So this model folder is going to store files that is going to define the structure and schema of the data that will be used in this application, and it's usually tied to the database. So it's basically to define the structure of what we want our data to look like in our database, right? Then we have the route, which is going to contain the file that would map HTTP request to a specific controller function based on the URL and the method. So these are all the folders that we're going to be using for this project. So let's get to work. First, we're going to start with the config folder, and here we want to set up our database. So MongoDB.js. I'll create the file here. But before that, we need to set up the server as well. Before we set up our database at all, we need to set up our server.js. Okay, let's start setting up our server.js. First, we need to import the Express framework to create our web browser. So I'm going to import Express from Express package. Express. We're going to import the CORS so that we can allow our front end to talk to the backend basically. So we're going to import CORS from CORS package. And then we're going to import .env so that we can load environment variable from our .env file, and we can process it as well. So we're going to import .env from .env file. Okay. Next thing we're going to do now is to initialize the TMV so that we can access variables like our ports or our database URL. So we're going to have .tmv dot, we're just going to have config function right here. Another important thing is to create an instance of our Express application. So we're going to have const app will be equals to Express command Express. Then we define the ports, which is the ports number that we're going to be using. So I'm going to be using port 5000 for this project. So we're going to have const ports will be equals to process.env dot, if there's a port number in our .env file, it should take the port number. If there isn't, it should just take 5000 as the port number. Another thing we need to do is to enable COS so that the browser doesn't block requests from our front end. So we're going to have app.use, open our brackets, COS, then we'll create another bracket. Also, we need to allow the server to understand and pass JSON data sent in the request bodies. So we're going to have app, that's the next line, app.use express .json. Then we're now going to attempt to connect to database. Okay, so we're going to have app.listen ports, comma, create our function right here. Then we're going to have app.listen open brackets. Oh no, we already have this. Okay, I'm just repeating myself. We're going to log in console and display this message. Server started on ports, and then it will take the port number. Ports. Okay, so because we have template literals here, we're not going to be using quotes. Okay, we're going to use backtick. So I'm going to cut this now, highlight this and cut it. I'll delete this quotes and I'm going to use backtick, and then I'll paste what I just cut because we have template literals here. Okay. All right. So now let's start our server. npm run server. Then we'll press enter. We should be getting this message right here. Server started on port 4000. Okay, so I'm going to try and make a change now, and you're going to see what I meant by node-mon is going to restart the server if there is a change. So I'm just going to delete this and then enter once more. You can see this right here in the terminal, node-mon restarting due to changes. I've made a change. I made 2 changes, so it started twice, and then you're going to see if there's an error, if your app has crashed or whatever. For now, nothing is wrong. Everything is working perfectly fine, and that's why we're getting this message. Server started on port 4000. So once you make a change, once node-mon detects a change in your project, it's going to restart the server automatically, and then it's going to update based on the changes you've made. Alright, so we've created our basic server here. Now we need to connect to our database. So what I'm going to do now is to open MongoDB. So in your browser, just type in MongoDB Atlas. Then press enter. Okay, then you click on Atlas database. Okay, so when you click on it, you should be seeing this on your screen. So I'm going to click on sign in. So once you're on this page now, you'll be required to log in if you have an existing account. But if you don't have an account, just click on sign up and then you fill the details, then create your account with MongoDB. So I have an account now. I'm just going to log in and then it will lead to the dashboard. Okay, so once you log in, you would see your dashboard. So the next thing you need to do is to create a new project. So you give the project a name. So this project is a note application. So I'm just going to give it MERN Notes app. Then you click on next right here. Then you will see your email and automatically you'll be the project owner. You can decide to add more people to the project later. You can invite new or existing users via email address if you want that. But if you're not doing that, just click on create project. So now you're going to see this. So the first thing you need to do is to create clusters. So click on create clusters. For the sake of tutorial, we're going to be using the free version. This is for learning and exploring MongoDB in a cloud environment, and it has 512 MB storage. So just click on free. Then the cluster name is 0. Our provider is Amazon Web Service. You can decide to use Google Cloud or Azure. Then the region, you have to select the region closer to you. So I'm going to select Cape Town. And then you click on create deployment. Okay, because of the testing, I've been working on some projects. So there's a prompt for me to select cars. So let's just do this. Verify. Okay, so clusters has been created. Once that is created, you're going to see this connect to clusters immediately. So once you're on this connect to clusters, first thing you need to do, okay, right now it's saying our connection IP address is this and it has been enabled. So we're still going to work on this network access later. Now, this is the username right here and this is the password. I will advise you to edit the password. Just change password to a preferred password. So I'm just going to, this is just for tests. So I'm just going to change the password to whatever. I can just do 12. Okay, create database user, then you choose a connection. So to connect to your application, you use drivers, click on drivers. Okay, so right now our driver is Node. If we were working with other programming, we would have chosen it. So for now it's Node and the version is 6.7. We've installed MongoDB already. So now we need to get our connection string. And this is the connection string right here. So what you're going to do now is to copy from this MongoDB to .NET. So we'll copy this and then you head back to your project, your .env file. We're going to have MongoDB underscore URI, which will be equal to, open a quote, then you paste the connection string that you've copied inside. Okay. So once that is done, click on done. And then for the network access that I talked about earlier, you click on right here on the sidebar, you click on project identity and access. Then you click on, no, not project, sorry, database and network access. I mistook access for network access. Then you're going to click on IP access lists. Now, this has been created for us automatically. Now, we want to allow access from anywhere. So I'm just going to click on add IP address. And then I'm going to use this 0.0.0.0/0. This allows access from anywhere. And that's what we need, right? Then I'll click on confirm. And then you're going to get a notification in your email that you've allowed access from anywhere. Okay, so right now it's still pending. We're just going to chill for it to be active. Once it's active, so now it is active and you can see. Okay, so next let's head back to clusters. We've copied our connection string. Our cluster 0 is ready to use, is live and is ready to use. Okay, so now let us set up our database connection. So in our MongoDB.js, we're going to write the code to undo database connection. So the first thing we need to do is to import the Mongoose library, which is a tool that's used to talk to MongoDB, like I explained earlier. So we're going to have import Mongoose from Mongoose package. Next is to create an export and asynchronous function to undo the database connection. So we're going to create a function that is going to undo database. It's going to be an asynchronous function, and also we need to export it so that we can use it in our server. So it's going to start with export const. The name of the function, I'm going to name it connectDB. It's going to be an asynchronous array function. No parameter is needed. So inside this function, we're going to use our try catch statement. Now, inside the try statement, we're going to attempt to connect to the database. So our database URI is in our env file, and we're going to access it through process.env, right? And also, we're going to connect to the database. So I'm going to use await. This await basically makes the function wait until the connection is established. So await mongoose.connect, open bracket. We want to access our env file, process.env dot. What we have here is MongoDB URL. Just copy it to avoid typo error. MongoDB URL. Okay, now we want to check if the connection is successful. We'll print a message to the terminal saying MongoDB connected successfully. So we will log in our console. MongoDB connected. Okay, so it prints this message once there's a connection established. Now to the catch block. If anything goes wrong, maybe we have the wrong password or the database is down, the code is going to jump to the catch and it's going to display an error message saying error connecting. So we'll log in the console as well, and we're going to display error connecting to database. Then we'll log the error itself. Okay. Also, another thing we need to make sure is to stop the server immediately once there's an error. So we'll use process.exit1, which is going to tell Node.js to stop the server immediately. 1 means it is closed because of failure. 0 would mean a clean exit. So this is going to prevent the app from running into a broken state without a database. So I'm just going to have process.exit, open brackets, 1. So that is if there is a connection issue, right? So now the very next thing we need to do is to open our server.js, and then we call the database that we've just created. So right here in server.js, what I'm going to do now is to edit this app.listen. So we're going to make an attempt to connect to the database. So right here, I'm going to cut this, just highlight and cut this. Then we'll call the function that we've created. So connect db from config.mongodb. Please, and please always ensure to add .js so that you don't run into error. So you call the connectDB function then open your brackets, then we'll create a function within this. We'll create an arrow function, then we'll paste what we just cut. Okay, so we've made an attempt to connect the database, and you know what this does already. This only starts for requests if the database is successful. So now let's start our backend. So we'll change directory in the terminal to backend, and now we're going to start our server. npm run server, press enter. Okay, you can see that we're getting the message MongoDB connected, server started on port 5000. So we've been able to establish a connection with our database. Now we can start working on our actual project. So I'm going to close this mongodb.js and also .env. Then we can start writing our controllers function. We can start working on the models and the route as well. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's start with model. So in the model folder, we're going to create our notes model.js. So first we need to import Mongoose so that we can interact with our MongoDB database. So I'll import Mongoose from our Mongoose package. Now we'll go through the steps together. The first step here is to define the schema. So schema basically defines the shape of the document inside the collection. So it's going to act like a set of rules for what the data is allowed to take. So this is going to define the rules of the way we want our data to appear in the database and the kind of data that we want to take in, basically. So let's do that. So we have const node schema will be equal to new mongoose dot schema. Then you open your bracket. Inside this bracket that you open another curly braces. Now for these curly braces, this is where we're going to define our node schema basically. So first, every note must have a title, which has to be a string. It can't be a number, the title of the note. So here we'll have title. Then you open another curly braces. Inside this curly braces, it was where you're going to define what the title is going to look like, right? The type of this is going to be a string. Then required true. So I'm using required true, this particular rule, because I want to ensure that every note has a title. So if a user enters a note details without the title of the note, the database is going to reject it because the title is not specified. All right. Another thing a note should carry is a content. Every note must have a content. That is why it's a note. So net schema to define would be content. The type as well is string, required true. So instead of having to retype, I'm just going to copy these and then paste it here. We'll add our comma. So those are the two things the note is going to carry. Then we'll add a comma here. Then this is an option though, but we're going to add timestamp to it. So it automatically adds the fields to your document. So it's going to add when the note was created, when it was first made, and also when it was updated. So if a user makes an update on the note, the timestamp will be automatically generated. When they create the note, the timestamp will also be automatically generated. So we're going to have timestamp. We'll set this to true. Okay, so we're done with this. This is the first step. Now to the second step, which is creating the model itself. We've created the schema, which is a set of rules. Now we need to create the model. So model basically is a wrapper for the schema. The schema is more like a blueprint. The model provides the interface. So for a CRUD application like this, to create, read, update, and delete, that's what CRUD means. For a CRUD application like a notes, we need to automatically create a collection named notes. So let's say we have one note and we want to have like a collection of notes. We're going to create a collection and we're going to name it notes. So the model is the wrapper that's going to wrap it up and it's going to store it in our database, in our MongoDB database to be precise. So let us do that now. Let's create that model and the wrapper. So here const notes will be equal to mongoose.model, open brackets. In our quotes, we'll have notes and then we're going to call our note schema. So now we've created a model for the schema. The last step here is to export the model so that it can be used in other parts of our application. So we're just going to have export default notes. Okay, so we're done with creating the model. Next thing we need to do is to create our controllers function so that we can add notes, delete. We'll write function to add, update, delete, edit notes basically. So in our controllers folder, we're going to create our notes controllers.js. First step here is to import our notes model, which is the blueprint, so that we can interact with the database. So we're going to import notes from models/notes models. Always remember to add .js so that you will not run into error. And now the next step is to create all the important functions, asynchronous functions to be precise, that we're going to use for this project. So first, we need to create the function that is going to get all notes. We're going to create function that is going to get a specific note by their ID. We're also going to create function to create a note. We'll create function to update a note, and lastly, we'll create the function to delete a note. So let's get to it. We'll have export. I'm using export because I want to ensure that we're able to export and we can use it in other parts of our application. So export async arrow function. And the name of the function is going to be, our function name would be Ctrl Z, okay. Export async function, and the function name, the first one, to create notes. So to create notes now, in the parameter, we're going to have requests and response. Okay. This is the first function right here that's been created. Next function is to update. This function will be to update notes. So export async function, and the name of the function will be update notes. Parameter will be request and response as well. Request, response. Next would be to delete. So here we'll have delete notes. Parameter as well. Request, respond. Next function would be to get all notes. Parameter as well would be request and respond. And the last one would be to get a note by its ID. So we'll have get notes by ID. Parameter as well would be request and response. Okay, so we've created the function frame here. And now we'll create our try catch statement that we're going to use for all. So try catch. Next here, try catch statement. Another one here, try catch statement. And here as well, try catch statement. Now, we need to test all those functions, right? But before we do that, we need to create a route for each of them so that we can access each of these APIs that we've just created. So we're going to, in our route folder, we'll create a notes route.js. So in our notes route.js here, the first thing we need to do is to import Express framework so that we can use it for its routing capabilities. So we're going to import Express from Express package. Oh, come on, Express. Now, I want to import specific logic function from our controller files, and this function is going to undo the database interaction for each actions. So basically what I'm talking about is to import all these functions that we've created here, all these controllers functions that we've created here. So I'm just going to import, open curly braces, create notes is the first one. Please remember to add .js here. Okay, then what the comma, delete notes, comma, update notes, get notes by ID. So here we've imported all the controllers function. Now, the very next thing is to create a new router instance so that we can group these related routes together. So we'll have const router would be equal to express.router. Now we're going to start working on creating each of the routes. So the first route we need to work on is to get all nodes. So we're going to have router. I just said to get all nodes. That means we're going to be using the get method, right? .get. And then we're going to use this prefix slash, then a comma, and we'll call the function to get all nodes. Why the curly braces? Next router is to get a note by its specific ID. So get. Here we're going to have slash, right? But because we want to get a note by a specific ID, we're going to add colon and ID. Then why the comma, get note by ID. We'll call that function. We'll call the controllers function. The next now is to create a note. To create means to post, right? So we're going to be using post method. So we'll have router.posts, open our brackets. Here we're going to use / as well, comma, create notes. Next router to set up is to update an existing note based on the ID that is provided. So we want to put an information in an existing note. So we're going to be using the put method. So here we're going to have router.put, open brackets, quotes, then we'll have / colon the ID, then we'll update the notes. Next is to delete. So we'll use the delete method. So router.delete, open our brackets. So to delete now, it's not like we're deleting the entire note. We want to delete a particular note by its ID. So we're also going to use ID for this. So sorry, / colon ID, comma, delete notes. Now we need to export the router so that we can use it in our server.js. So we're going to have export default router. Now in our server.js, we're going to import our routes. So right here, after the middleware that allows the server to understand and pass JSON, we're going to set up our route here. So we want to direct any request starting with /API/notes to the logic inside our notes routes.js. So we're going to have app.use open brackets /API/notes. So this is what the API is going to use. You're going to see that in action anyway. And then we'll call our note routes. So we're going to have note routes right here. Note routes, yes. So I need to import this as well. So I'm going to import note routes from dot routes/note routes.js. All right, so we'll set up the routes for this application. Now let us test. So we're going to be testing with Thunder clients, and then we want to see if each of these functions is working. So here I'm just going to do response. This is just for test. Response.json open curly braces success true message would be created, notes created successfully. Just testing. Okay, so I'll open Thunder clients. If you do not have, just install Thunder clients, or you can as well use Postman to choice. So I'm going to just do this note request, new request, I mean. Then right here. So here we're going to have www.http localhost. Our port number is 5000 /API/ we want to use the get all notes, the controllers function here. Okay, to create notes, our route here is / as well. So / this is to create notes, right? So /notes. In our server.js, we have /API/notes, right? Before we now start connecting to all this. So here, /API/notes with an S. I'm going to click on send. Oh, network error. Okay, so I just realized I used get method instead of post method. So since we are working with create notes, and this is the API endpoints, we have http :// localhost port 5000 /API/notes/ we use post method. You can see right here success true, and we have a message here, notes created successfully. Okay, so that means that we can access this function that is being created here. So you can decide to test it for each of them as well. Everything is still going to work perfectly well. So let's start working on creating notes, the function to create notes. So I'm going to delete this now, and then we're going to start writing the function. So in our try block, the first step is to extract the title and content that we're going to send from the front end, and we're going to be getting that from the body of the content. So we'll extract const title and content will be equals to request.body. Then we're going to create a new instance of a note using the data we just extracted. So we're going to have const notes will be equal to new notes. Then we'll open brackets, then you add the curly braces. So you type in your title and then the content. Now that we've done this, we're going to save the notes into our database. So we're going to have const saved notes will be equals to await notes.save function. So this is going to save our notes into the database. Once it is saved, we want to display the status. So response.json wants to display a message saying note is saved. So we'll pass the saved notes here. Now for the cat block, if there's any issue with our try block, the cat block is going to display a message on the console, displaying the error message and also a response. So we're going to have console.error, open brackets, and we're going to display this message showing error in notes created. Error in notes controller, so that the error can be specific. Then we'll display the error message as well. Then we'll display a JSON message showing message internal server error. Okay, so we've written the function to create notes. Now we need to write the function to update notes. So in our try block, first we need to get the title of the notes that we want to update and also the content. So we're going to extract that from request.body. So title and then content will be equals to request.body. And then we're going to find the notes that we want to edit by its ID, and we're going to update its field in one step. So we're going to have, I'll create a variable that's going to store that const update note would be equals to await notes dot find by ID and update, open our bracket. First, we need to get the ID of the notes that we want to update. So we need to request it from the parameter .id. Also, we're going to update the new content. It can be the title or the content of the note itself. Add a comma. Then we want to return the new update. So we're going to set new to true. So this option tells Mongoose to return the new updated version of the note. All right. So after this now, after this closing brackets, we're going to use an if statement to check if the ID didn't match any note that we stored in the database. They want to stop and return an error message. So we're going to check if not update notes, then want to return response.json will display a message to show that the note is not found. But if the note is found, we'll display a message showing updated successfully, and then the updated note will be sent to the database. So we're going to have response.json update notes. If there's any error with our try block, our catch block is going to display the message. So I'm just going to copy this and paste this right here. So error in updates controllers. Okay. So now we need to create the controllers function to delete notes from the database. So in our try block, we need to look for the notes by its ID and remove it permanently from the database. So we'll create a variable to store that. Const delete notes will be await in our notes model dot find by ID and delete, open our bracket, request dot parameters dot ID. So it's going to find this ID in the database and it's going to delete the notes. Now, we also need to check for notes that is not stored in the database. So if there's no notes to begin with, we should display a message showing notes not found. So if not delete notes, then we want to return response.json. The message to display would be notes not found. If the note is found and is deleted successfully, we should display a message confirming that the note has been deleted. So we'll have response.json message notes deleted successfully. If there's any error with our try block, our catch block is going to display a message saying error in delete controllers. So now we're done with the delete notes. Now we need to work on get all notes. So we're going to write the controllers function to get all the notes that's been stored in the database. So we'll start with our try block. In the try block, we need to first search for the database. We need to get all the notes that are stored in the database, and then we'll sort them by their creation. Like we'll sort them in ascending order. The newest would be the ones to be displayed first. So const notes will be equal to await notes dot find method dot sort, open our bracket, then we'll open the curly braces, then we'll check when it was created at -1. So we want to sort it by their creation. Then we're going to display all the notes back. We'll send the list of all the notes. So response.json notes. If there's error with the try block, the catch block should display an error message. So that is going to take error in get all notes controllers. Now we need to write the code to get specific notes details by its ID. So first thing we need to do is to look for that notes by the ID that is provided in the URL. So we're going to have const notes would be equal to, so we're going to have await notes from the database dot find by ID, then we'll request dot params dot ID. Now, we're going to use an if statement to check if the note with that ID is not available. We should also display a message showing that the note is not found. But if it is available, we should send it back to the user. So we'll check if not notes, then want to return response.json. We'll display a message. Notes with this ID is not found. But if it is found, we're going to display a response. Response.json denotes. Okay. If there's any error with the try block, the catch block should display the error. So this is for get notes by ID. So these are all the functions that we've created. We started with the create note function. This function is to create notes and save it in a database. Then we have the update note function. This is going to update the notes that's been created. Then we have the delete notes. This is to permanently delete a note from database. And we have the get all notes. This is going to get all the notes that we've created. Then we have the get notes by ID. This is going to get a particular note based on its ID. So this is for specific notes, basically. So we're done with the controllers function. Now we need to test if this backend is working perfectly well. So let's get to it. So now let's test. So in the body, remember that when we created notes, we're getting the title and the content from request.body. So we're going to use the body here. So we're using post method to post to create a note basically. So you have your curly braces, and then inside the curly braces, we'll have the title. Then the title of this, I'm just going to give it notes 1. Then we're going to have the contents. And the content will be notes 1 content. So we have the title and the content, which is what our controllers function is asking for. Then I'll click on send. Then you should be getting this message, status 200. That means it is okay. The size of what we just created is 164 bits and it was created in 1.29 seconds. Now for our response, we have the title, note 1. The content of the title is here. The ID of this particular note that we created, this is it. And the time when it was created, this is it as well. The time when it was updated, this is it. So if you check the database now in the database, if you click on browse collection, you're going to see the notes that you've created while testing. It will be saved directly in our database. So let's check that now. So now if we check tests, you should see notes. The collection name right here is notes as we defined it in our schema, right? If I click on notes now, we're going to see the notes that has been created. The ID is 6964, this is this. You can see that it's the same thing, 69C4FD7CA. This is the same thing. The title right here is saved in the database, the content, when it was created and when it was going to be updated, or when it was updated. So the note has been created now. We can add more to it. Let's say this is note 2 contents. If I hit the send button, you're going to see right here that we have note 2 contents. Now, if I reload this, you're going to see 2 different notes. So this is the first one we created, and this is the second one that has been created. Okay. Now, another thing we need to test for, we've created notes, right? Now, to get all notes, I'm just going to delete what we have in the contents, and then I'm going to send message. Okay, so we have an internal server error. If we check this right here, error in create notes. Okay, now we want to get all notes. We're going to use the get method, right? And our API endpoint starts with /. So we'll use the get method. Now, if I hit send, we're going to see the 2 notes that has been created. We're going to see the ID, the title, the content, when it was created, when it was updated. Okay, so the get method is get all notes. Controllers function is working. Create notes is working. Now, let us get the details of a note by its ID. We have 2 notes here. I'm going to copy the ID of this, and then I'm just going to paste it here. So we'll follow the route, :ID. So here we're going to have : the ID of this first note. We're using the get method as well. So I'm going to hit the button here. Let me see. To get a note, we're using / the ID. So right here, this is it. I removed the colon and I just put the ID of it. Okay, this is for the second note. Now let's say we want to get all notes, right? And we want to get, now we just tested for get all notes. Now I want to get the first note. I'm just going to paste the ID here. If I hit send, we should see the details. The title here, note 1, content, when it was created and when it was updated. Now let us test for updating notes. We have the ID here as well, right? So let us update the title of this note. So we're going to have title, and then instead of note 1, I'm just going to have note 1 updated. The contents is going to take note 1 content updated. Okay, if I hit the send button, this is supposed to use put method. So let me cancel this request. Since we want to update, we're using put method. So if I hit the send button now, you're going to see that this has been updated. Notes 1 updated, notes 1 content updated. Now, let's say we want to get all notes now. We use get method. If I hit send, you can see that this has been updated. Notes 1 updated, notes 1 content is updated. Okay, so we've tested for get all notes, get the notes by specific ID, create notes, update notes. Now let's test for delete notes. Now I want to delete the second note. I'm just going to copy this now, paste it here, and then I'm going to use the delete method. If I hit send, note deleted successfully. Now let's check all the notes that we have. We should only see one note. Get method, send. We're going to see just one note. Now let's check our database to see if this aligns with what we have in the database. So this is what we have in our database, right? It has been updated, note 1 updated, note 1 content updated, when it was created and when it was updated. Okay, you can see that there's a difference. When it was created, this was the time. When it was updated, this is the time. Okay, so there's a difference in time. Okay, so let's just add more notes to this. Let's say note 3 sent. So note 3 has been created. We have the title, the content. Now back to our database. Let's refresh. We should see two notes, the updated note 1 and also the note 3 that is created. So we have two notes now that has been created. So that means that all our controllers function is working perfectly well. The create note, the update note, the delete notes, the get all notes, and the get notes by ID. So everything works perfectly well. Now we can now work on our front end. So I'm going to close this and then I'm going to open this in our terminal. So we're going to have npm create vit at latest space dot, then we'll press enter. Press enter as well. And then you have to select a framework. We're using React. Then you select a variance. We're using React compiler, JavaScript plus React compiler. Press enter. Install with npm and start now. I'm just going to select no, and then we're going to install manually. Npm install. So we've installed React now, and then you can see we have our node modules, public folder, source folder, git ignore, every other thing is here. So I'm just going to start the server now. Npm run dev. I'll press enter, and then I'll hover on this and click on. So this is what you're going to see on the screen when you click on that link. The count is working. You can see we can click on the count. So now the next thing we're going to do is just to clean up so that we can use this app to what we want to use it for. So I'm going to delete app.css now, and then the app.jsx, I'm going to delete every single thing we have there. Index.css as well, Ctrl A. I'm going to delete it all. Also, now I'm going to use a shortcut to create React snippets. I'm going to type in this RAFCE. If this does not work, and you press enter, if this does not work for you, that means you don't have this extension EX7 plus React Redux React Native Snippet extension. If you have it, then it's going to work. If you don't have it, please do well to install it. So what you should be seeing now on your screen should just be this app right here. So I'm going to change the title as well from frontend to notes app. If you check the title, you can see right here that we have notes app. Okay, I'm going to close this now. Then we need to install Tailwind because we're going to be styling with Tailwind. So open a new terminal and on your Chrome, type in Tailwind CSS. Once you're on this website, you're going to click on docs. It leads you to the documentation page. So you're going to see this page, installation, get started with Tailwind CSS. We're using Vite for our project, so we're going to follow this step. First step is to create the project. We've already done that. Next step is to install Tailwind CSS. So you just need to copy this code here and then you paste it on the terminal. So I need to change directory to front end first. Then I'll paste on the terminal, press enter. Then we'll continue with the third step. The third step is to convert the Vite plugin. So here we have vite.config.ts, which is TypeScript. But in our own code, we're using JS, JavaScript. It doesn't mean actually. So you just copy this line of code. You paste it, vite.config.js. You paste this line of code. And then you copy this line of code as well. So after this now, comma, enter, and then you paste Tailwind. Next is to import Tailwind CSS. So copy this, and then you paste it in index.css. And then you start your build process, which is to run this, and then you can start styling. So while this is still installing, and this is done installing, okay, we have Tailwind now. If you check your package.log and the dependencies, you're going to see Tailwind there. All right, so we're done with this now. Now let's try to style. So I'm going to stop the server, Ctrl C, the front-end server. I'm going to stop it. Now I'm going to try and style. So we'll have an h1 tag. Let me just type in this. And then I'm going to style. Class name, text should take green, 400. Text size, I'll set it to large. And now we're going to restart the server that we've stopped. We're going to type in npm run dev, and you press enter. You're going to get the link to view the website. So I'm going to close the previous one. And you can see right now that this has reflected. You can see the color. So we can also set, you can increase the size. You can see the size of the text has changed. So our Tailwind has been installed perfectly. Okay, so the next step now, I'll close all of this, is to create our components and pages that we're going to use for this project. So first folder, pages folder. In the source again, we'll create our component folder. And also, now in our pages, we'll start with the home page, .gsx, refc to create React snippets. We'll create another file for the create page. The page where we're going to create notes, basically. That's what this means, refc. Then we'll have our notes details page. refc as well. So we've created 3 pages in the pages folder. Then we have the component folder as well. In our component folder, we'll create our navigation bar. So navbar .gsx refc to create React snippets. Then we'll create the notes card. And then we're done with this now. I'll close this now. Then we'll create one more folder in the source folder. We'll name it library. In the library folder, we're going to create a new file. And the file will take our Axios. And also, we'll create another file for utils. So here we're going to have our utilities. Since we created Axios file, that means we're going to install Axios. If you're wondering what Axios is used for, in React, Axios is used to make HTTP requests to external APIs or backend server. Remember that we created all our controllers function in the backend, we set up our routes in the backend, we created our server in the backend. So we need a tool that we're going to use to communicate with the backend. We need a tool that we're going to use to fetch data from backend, send data to the backend basically. And that is what Axios does. So Axios helps you to send, get, post, delete requests and more. And it also automatically converts JSON responses. It manages header, authorization tokens, and intercepts basically. So let us install Axios. So I'm just going to type Axios npm, and then you're going to see right here. So once you're here, just copy this code and then you paste it on the terminal where we are installing things for frontend. And also, so now we're going to set up our routes in app.gsx. So you're going to open app.gsx and then you're going to delete what we had here before so that we can set up our routes. So this is going to be, this div tag here is going to be the main container. And inside this container, we're going to have another div, but this is going to have a self-closing tag. So right here, this div will have a self-closing tag. Then we're going to start setting up the routes. So let's write the routes logic. So we're going to have routes. Okay, so we want to set up routes, right? But we didn't install React Router DOM. So we need to install that first so that we can set up our routes logic. npm install React Router DOM. Then you press enter. Okay, so React Router DOM has been installed. Now we can now set up our routes. We'll start with routes. And we need to import it here. So we need to import routes from React Router. So we have the routes here. Then inside this routes components is what renders different routes to what will match the paths that we want to set. Okay, so we're going to set up another route, the self-closing tag. Then we'll create the path here. This is going to take /. Then we'll render the elements. This is going to take the home page. Then we're going to set up the route for create page so that we can create a page. So we'll have routes, we'll set the paths, /create elements. We're going to have our create page, and then we're going to set up routes for the notes details page. So this is going to be a bit different. It's going to be dynamic in a way that to see the notes details, we want to view the details of a particular note. We need the ID of that note that we want to view. We need to fetch the ID. So ID is a dynamic parameter. So React Router will capture whatever is in the spot, like the ID, and then pass it so that we can fetch that particular note from our database. So here we're going to have /notes /:ID. The elements here we'll have notes detail, I think it's note details. Okay, notes with an S, notes details. Then we'll close this, then we'll close the outer part. So now we'll set up the routes for the pages we have for the home page, for the create page, and for the notes details page. Now for this route to work, for us to be able to navigate between pages, we need to wrap our entire application with React Router. So here I'm just going to delete this here. and then we'll set up browser router from React router DOM, and then we'll paste our app in between browser router. So browser router is basically going to wrap the entire application so that we can navigate between pages. So right now, what you should be seeing here is the home page, but it's not showing here. Okay, home page is not defined. All right, so we skipped that. We did not import all of this, so don't forget to do that. I'm going to import home page from dot/pages/home page. Create page is also in pages folder. Notes details is also in pages folder. So instead of having to retype, I'm just going to copy this, paste it twice, and then I'll highlight this. Then I'll use Ctrl D. I'll just put create page here for this page. I'll highlight this as well, use Ctrl D once, and then we'll have notes details right here. If you head back here, you're going to see that we have home page and everything is going to work. And so the first thing the user is going to see is the home page. All right, so we'll set up our route now. We can now start creating every other thing. So first off, we're going to start with the navigation bar. Now for our nav bar, we're going to need an icon. So we need to install Lucid React. So I'm going to do npm install Lucid React. While this is installing, let us create our navigation bar. So inside this div tag, we're going to have another div tag. Inside this other div tag, we'll create another one. Then here, we'll have a span tag. And that is going to take the name of the app. I'm just giving it ebook, it's just a sample. So now this is like the logo. This is what we're going to be using for the logo. So let's have a comment here, logo area. Now, we want to ensure that once you click on this, it should, no matter the page you are, even if you're on the notes details page, if you click on this logo, it should always lead you back to the home page, right? So we're going to use the link tag from React router DOM. So I'm just going to cut this and paste it. We'll use the link tag to wrap this logo. Let's import link from React router DOM. Now we'll set the path where the link would go to when you click on it, and that path will be /, which is home page, right? As we have defined it here while setting up the route. So whenever the user clicks on this, it always leads them back to the home page, regardless of the page they are currently. So that is for the logo section. Then we have the action section, basically. So let me just use action section. We'll have a div tag here. This div tag, we'll use link tag from React router DOM as well. Inside this div tag, we're going to have an icon and also a span tag. So let's have a span tag first. And this is going to take new notes, that is to create a new note. So Lucid React is still installing. Okay, we're done installing Lucid React now. So let us use the plus icon. I need to take a self-closing tag. We need to import it. Import plus icon from Lucid React. If you check package.json, in our dependencies, we should say Lucid React. Okay, so that means we're unable to install it due to network connectivity. So I'm going to try installing it once more. npm install Lucid React. Press enter. So Lucid React has been installed. If we check package log, you're going to see that we've installed Lucid React here. We have our navbar now. We're just going to mount it in the home page so that the navigation bar will be at the home page. So here we're going to have navbar, and it has been imported right here. So if you check now, what you should see is navbar. So you can see right here we have our navbar, the ebook, the icon, and then the new notes, because we mounted navbar in the home page. Now let us style this so that it's going to look more presentable. So sticky top would take 0, z-index of 50, the width will be full, background will be white, 80. Then we'll add a backdrop filter, blur. Then we'll add a border at the bottom. Then we'll set the border color, slate 200. Okay, let me close this so that we can have a larger screen. We'll start the second div tag, max width of auto. Then we'll set max width of 7XL. Padding on X for 4. On small screen, padding on X will be set to 6. Large screen, padding will be set to 8. Then we have another div tag here. Display would be flex. We'll set the height to 16. Items at the center, justify between. Then we have the link tag. We're going to style this as well. Display is flex. Items center. We'll set a gap of 2 and it will be in group. Now to the span tag. The text size will be XL. Font will be set to bold. Text color slate 900. Tracking tight. Then we have the action center, flex, item center. Then this link here, we did not set the paths for this link. I forgot to set the path to this. So let us set the path /create. So when user clicks on this icon, it should lead them to the create page, just as we've set it here in app.gsx. Okay. So now let us style inline flex, items center, gap of 2, border radius large, background blue 600, padding text we're going to set it to small, font it will take semi bold, and the text color will be white, text white. Then we have the plus icon. We'll set the width to 18 pixels and the height as well will take the same 18 pixels. Okay, so this is what this should look like now. You can see when I clicked on this, it led me to the create page, and you can see it right here in the URL. So this is what the navigation bar looks like right now. So now, let me close this. Let us continue with our home page. But before we continue with the home page, we need to set up our Axios because we're going to be fetching and sending data. So we need to set up Axios. So import Axios from Axios package, and then we are going to get the backend URL that we want to communicate with, and we're going to store it in this variable backend URL. So our URL http://localhost port 5000/API. Then we're going to create an instance of Axios. So this is going to allow us to set up the backend URL once, so we don't have to retype it every time. So we're going to have const API would be equals to Axios.create, open bracket, then open curly braces, backend URL would be equal to backend URL. Then we're going to export the instance so that we can use it across our front-end application. So export default API. So this can be used across our application. Now let us continue with the home page. Now to our home page. So first off, we need to create a state variable to store the array of nodes that we're going to fetch from the database, and also a setter function to update the nodes when we have like new nodes. So here we're going to have const nodes, open your square brackets, setter function set nodes. Would use states, and we initialize the nodes with an empty array. Then we're going to use effects to fetch all nodes from the API. So we're using use effects because we want the function to run once the component mounts. So here, use effects, open brackets, then we'll create our arrow function here, open curly braces, const, we'll create our fetch nodes. It's going to be an asynchronous function, and it will have no parameter. So now we use our try catch statement. In the try block, we're going to request the nodes endpoint to fetch all nodes that we have. So we're going to have const response will be equal to and with API.get. What we want to get is nodes, so /nodes. Then we're going to update the state with the return data. So we're going to call the setter function that we created earlier. Set nodes would be response.data. Now, if the try block has an issue, the catch block should log the error in the console. So we'll get this error. We'll get this message, error fetching nodes. Then we'll display the error.response. And after this here, we're now going to call the fetch node function. And right here, we're going to pass an empty array as a dependency array. Now that we've created the function to fetch nodes from our database, we can now start working on the UI. So here, after our navigation bar, we'll have our main tag. Inside this main tag, we'll have a div tag. Inside this div, which is the container for the header section, we'll have an h1 tag saying your library. Then we'll have a p tag that will display this message: manage and organize your personal notes. Okay, that is for the header. Now to the main display. So we want to display the note, right? But first we need to do something. We need to check the length of the note, and we need to ensure that it is greater than 0 before we display the note. So here we'll have a curly braces. We'll do notes that we're fetching from database dot length, ensure it is greater than 0. Then display open brackets. Inside this bracket we'll have our div tag. Inside the div tag is where we're going to display the note. So we'll map over the array of notes that we're getting from the database. We'll pass note here, open our brackets, then we'll have a div tag. Now this div tag here would take a key so that we can display individual notes by their ID. So here notes dot underscore ID. And then we're now going to display inside this div, we're going to display the notes card. This notes card will be for each of the notes, what each note is going to look like. The notes here is what we're fetching for all notes that we have in the database. Notes card is for each of the notes. So that's what we want to display right here. And we're going to pass notes here as notes. Also, set notes would be equals to set notes. Okay, so this is what the home page should look like now. If you check the screen, this is what we have: your library, manage and organize your personal notes. There are no notes here because our notes here, I've not imported it. So let me import notes card from /component/notes card. Okay, let me reload this. You can see right here, there's nothing in the notes card actually. Okay, so let's start now. We'll set minimum height to screen size. The background color will take white. Then we have the main container. Max width 7XL. Margin of auto. Padding, we'll set this to 4. And then on a smaller screen, we'll set the padding on X to 6. And on a large screen, we'll set padding of X to 8. Then padding of Y will take 4. Now to this div tag for our header section. Margin bottom will take 10. Display would be flex direction, colon, and wide the gap of 1. Now for the main header, text size will take 3XL. The fonts should take extra bold. Text color will be slate 900. Then we'll add tracking. Tracking will be tight. Then for this p tag, the text size will be base. Text color will be slate 500. Okay. Now to this div tag here, display will take grid. Grid equals 1. On a medium screen, the grid should be colon 2, and on a large screen, grid equals 3. Then we'll add a gap of 3. On a large screen, we'll add a gap of 8. Now for the individual notes, we'll add an animation, animate in, fade in as well. Then we want it to slide in from bottom. Then we'll add the text, we'll add a duration of 500. So now let's create our notes card. So you navigate to your component, and there we'll have our notes. Remember that in home page we have this here. We pass this here as a parameter, so we're going to pass it as well here. Notes, sets notes. Right here in the notes card, we'll start building. Right, so we'll have a div tag here. we'll have a div. Inside this div tag, no, we have a div tag already. So we need to create the title of the note. So h3, we're going to have notes dot title. Then after the title of the note, we'll now display the content of the note. So we'll use a p tag here, and we'll have notes dot contents. Then we want to have like a footer section to keep the date of when the note was created. Okay. And also, so let me just create a div tag right here. So for this footer section, we want to display the dates when the note was created. But before that, we need to work on our utilities first. So in this utility, we're going to store how we want our dates to be displayed. We want to format the dates basically. So I'm going to create a function to format dates. And then we'll enter date here, open our square brackets, our curly braces. Then we're going to convert the date that's going to be automatically generated. So here we're going to return date dot to local string return TURN date dot to local string. We want to use this date formats or the comma, then open our curly braces. So we want to turn the month into a 3-letter abbreviation. So here I'm going to have months. Let it be short, comma, the day should be numeric, and then the year as well should be numeric. Okay, so we've just formatted our date now. So here is supposed to take dates, not data. All right, so we can now use it in our notes card. So let's import the format date. Now to the footer section, we'll have a span tag. Inside this span tag, we'll call the format date that we've imported, then new dates. We'll add our notes dot when it was created. So created at. After this span tag, we're going to have a delete tag, a div tag. So this div tag is basically to delete. So here, first we need the pen square icon. So pen square, the icon. After that, we'll have our button, and this button will take the trash icon. So I'm using this trash 2 icon right here. So now let's see what we have. Oh, we have a blank screen. If you check the console, we're having this error here. Okay, so let's fix this. Let's start with our Axios. This is not supposed to be backend URL. It's supposed to be the base URL, not backend URL. Okay, so everything is fixed now. So the error is coming from here. And also in your own page, don't forget to import API from the library folder that we created. You know, we're using API.get here to fetch all the nodes that has been created. So don't forget, I actually forgot to do that. I just remembered now. Don't forget to import API. So once you have done that, you can see we have the 2 nodes that we've created, the note 3, the date when it was created here as well, note 1 updated, note 1 content updated, and then the date when it was created as well, just like we have it here in our MongoDB database, right? So this is what the notes looks like. So now let us style the notes card. Okay, we'll start with this div tag here. Class name, display would be flex direction, colon. Then the height, we'll set that to full. Space on y-axis, I'm going to set it to 3. Then for the title, we'll set the text size to large. The font should be semi-bold. The text color will take slate, 900. Leading sites. Then the p tag, which is the content. Text, we'll set it to small. Text slate, 600. Line clamp of 3. Leading relaxed. Then we have the footer section of the notes card. The display will be flexed. All items at the center. Justify between. Padding top of 4. I'm going to add the margin top of auto. Then border at the top. Border top of 2. And then the border color will be slate 300. Then we have the span tag. The text will be small. The font medium. text slit of 400. Then this div tag here, display flex, items at the center, we'll set a gap of 3. Then we have the icon. The width, I'll set it to 4. The height as well, we'll take 4. Text color, group over. The text, when you hover on it, the text color would be blue, 500. Transition colors. Then we have this button here. So for this button, we'll set padding of 1.5, border radius of medium, text color slit 400. When you hover on it, you should take red, text red 600. And then when you hover as well, the background color should be red 50, just a very, very light red. Then for the trash icon itself, we'll set the width to 4 and the height to 4 as well. So right now, this is what the notes card looks like. Okay, we're going to add more styling. Also, we want to ensure that once you click on the note card, it leads you to the notes card details page, like the notes details page, where you can see more about the notes. So that means this entire div tag should be wrapped with a link tag, a link that will lead us to the details page. So here, we'll use link from React Router DOM. And then I'll paste this. Now we'll set the paths where the link will lead us to. So we'll have to here, open curly braces. We'll have /notes. Remember that notes details page, the parts when we set it in app.jsx, it takes a dynamic parameter because each note has a unique ID. So if you want to view a specific note, you want to view the details of that note, you need to provide the ID. So here, /note/ you enter a $, then you have a curly braces. Then we're going to have notes _ID. All right. So right here, we're not going to use quotes. We're going to use backtick. So I'm just going to use backtick here. And this is how this is. Okay. So set /notes, then the template literals here, which is going to take the ID. So now if we click on this now, it should lead us to notes details page. And you can see the ID is right here in the URL parameter, right? If I click on this as well, you can see it leads me to the details page and you can see the ID right there. Okay, so let's style this link tag. Class name, group, block, background of white, border, then the border color, we'll take 200, rounded XL, padding of 5, duration of 200. Then we're going to have transition all. Then when you hover on it, we should have a shadow of MD, just medium shadow. When you hover on it as well, we should have border blue 200. So right now, this is what this looks like. When you hover, you can see we have a little, you can see right here. Okay. Now let's work on these 2 icons right here. When you hit this delete icon, it should delete. We should be able to delete the notes. Okay. So first, we need to create the function that's going to undo deleting notes. That means to remove a note from the database permanently and restore the other notes that we have. So here, we're going to write our function. So I'm going to name the function undo delete. And it's going to be an asynchronous function. We'll have we'll pass E, then we'll pass the ID of the notes that we want to delete. So first, we need to stop the link component from navigating to the details page when that button is clicked, when that delete icon is clicked. So we'll have e.prevent defaults. Also, we need to undo the event of bubbling, which means that we need to stop event bubbling to ensure that only the button clicked is undooed. So when the user clicks on the delete icon, only that icon works. It does not lead them to the details page. So we'll have event.stop propagation. Then we also need a basic browser confirmation to prevent accidental deletion, so that users are not just going to click on that icon and the note is deleted. You know, sometimes mistakes can happen. So we need to ensure that there is a browser confirmation asking, are you sure you want to delete this note, or do you really want to delete this note? And if it hits OK, then the note will be deleted. So we'll use an if statement for that, and then we'll call our windows. If not windows dot confirm, then ask this message, are you sure you want to delete these notes? then we'll return. So if the user is really sure that they want to delete, then we can now go on with deleting. So we'll use our try catch statements. In the try block, we need to send delete request to the backend API. So we'll have await API from our library Axios API.delete method. Then we'll use a backtick here /notes. We want to delete by ID specific. So we'll have ID. Then once we're able to delete it, we're now going to update the local state by filtering out the note that has that specific ID. So we'll use our function, the starter function, to update. So previous.filter, and then we'll have n._id. We'll check if it's not relating to the ID. Okay, so once that works, then once it's been deleted successfully, we're supposed to display a message showing that the note has been deleted, right? So we can log into our console saying notes deleted successfully, or we can use a toast notification to display a toast message showing that the note has been deleted successfully. If we're using that, that means we need to install React Hot Toast. So let's install React Hot Toast. So npm install React Hot Toast. So while this is installing, let's just continue. If there's any error with our try block, our catch block should log the error in console, and it should say error deleting notes, and also display the main error. Okay, our toast notification has been, and also display a toast. We're going to use a toast here later on. You're going to see that. So now we've created the function that's going to undo deleting notes from the database. Now we need to call that function and use it where we have this trash icon. So this button right here that is wrapping the trash icon is where we're going to use it. So we'll use the onClick method because we want to capture when the user clicks on the icon. Then we'll pass events. Then we'll call undo delete function. We'll pass the event notes._id. Okay, now let's give this a try. If I click on this now, you can see that we're getting this message. Are you sure you want to delete this note? If I hit OK, that note will be deleted instantly. So you can see when you click on this icon, it's not leading you to the note details page. But if I click on this container, it's going to lead me to the note details page, right? But when I hit this icon here, it's going to ask me if I want to delete these notes. So that is how this works. Okay, so we're done with our note card. You can now close this and close this. Close backend. Now let us work on creating a new note so that when we hit this button, it leads us to create page. So we should be able to create a new note and add to the notes that we have. So we'll open our create page. So now for our create page, when we're creating a page, all right, we need the title and we need the contents. And also we need to track when the page has been created. The notes basically has been created. So we're going to create state variable and set a function for each of them. So we'll start with title const title, set a function, set title, and be equals to use states. By default, it will be empty. So we're initializing the title with empty. Then we have content as well. Set content, use states. We'll initialize this as well with an empty string. Then we'll have the loading. So for loading, then the setter function sets loading. By default, we're going to initialize it with false. Okay. Next thing we need to do is to use the use navigate from React Router DOM so that when we save a notes, it can navigate directly to the notes card, to the home page basically. So we're going to have const navigate will be equals to use navigate the function. All right, so we're going to import use navigate from React Router DOM. Okay. Now the next step is to create a function that's going to undo submission of the notes. So I'm going to call the function undo submit, and it's going to validate the inputs and send the new notes data to the backend. So we'll have const handle submit, which will be an asynchronous arrow function. We'll pass events as the parameter. First, we need to prevent the default browser from reload. So event.prevent defaults. Then we'll do some basic validation to ensure that the user doesn't just type spaces. So we're going to have if not title dot trim function, or not contents dot trim function as well. Open our curly braces. We'll display a message. Windows. Now let's display console. Login console. All fields are not filled. Also, we need to display toast notification. We've not been using that, so right here in our main.jsx, we should call toasts with a self-closing tag. So I'm going to import toast from React hot toast so that we can start using our toast notification. So here it's supposed to be toast star from React hot toasts here. So here in create page, we can also display a toast message, toast.error, fill all fields. Okay, so that is for the basic validation that we just did. The validation basically is to ensure that the user does not just type spaces. The user has to type something, the title has to carry something, the content as well has to be filled. Then we can now set loading. We use the setter function and then set loading to true. Once loading is set to true, we can now continue. In our try block, we need to send post requests to our notes endpoint. That means we need to post the details that has been filled, right? So we use await API from our library right here. Await API dot post method. Open, then we'll have /notes as we've set it at the backend. Then we're going to send in the title and the content. Once that is successful, we'll display a success message, and then we would have notes created successfully. If there's any error with our try block, our catch block is going to display, it's going to log the error in console. But before that as well, we need to, once the note is saved successfully, we need to navigate back to our homepage, our library, which our homepage is basically our library. So we're going to navigate, we'll call the navigate that we created earlier to /homepage. Okay, so if there's any error with our try block, our catch block should log the error in console, error, and also display a toast error message that would say notes failed, note creation failed. Okay, now we have the function that's going to undo submission. Then we can now start with our UI. Now for the UI of this, we have this div tag here. We'll create another div tag. Inside this div, I'll create another one. Then first we need to create an icon that will lead us back to the home library. So if you click on the icon and the text that will be right after the icon, it will lead you back to the home page. So we'll use link tag from React Router DOM, and then we'll set the paths, and this will be equals to, this will take / inside the link. We're going to have the arrow left icon. So here, arrow left icon with a self-closing tag, and then we're going to have back to notes. After this link tag, we're going to have our form card. So I'll create a div tag here. Inside that div tag, we'll have another div tag. Then I'll create another div tag again. So we'll have an h2 tag and then a p tag. For this h2 tag, we'll have this title, create new notes. Then for the p tag, we're going to have this text. After this div tag, we're going to have a form tag. Now this form here, we'll use the onSubmit method, and then we'll call the undo submit function so that the form is going to be submitted. Inside this tag, inside this form, we're going to have our title input field. We're going to have our input field basically. So I'll start with a div tag. We'll have a label inside of it. Now this label here, we'll take the text title, After the label, we'll have our input field for text, and then we'll set the value to title. Then we'll call on change method, so that when there is a change, it's going to capture it. So e.target.value, our value is going to store title. So this input field basically is going to store title. That is for this here. This div tag is for the title. Now for our content area, we'll have another div tag. Inside we'll have the label. Then the label will take this text content. After the label, we'll have a text area. This text area right here, we'll declare the value as well. It's going to take content. Then we'll call on change. If there's an event, that's value. Okay. Now we're done with the input field. Now the action is what's next. So we'll have a div tag, and then we'll have a button. The button type is a submit type. Inside this button, we're going to disable loading. So disabled loading. All right. So in between this opening and closing of the button tag, we want to show a spinning loader if the request is in progress. So here we're going to have loading. Then we should display, we're using a ternary operator to check if it is loading. Then we want to display spinning progress, and it's also going to show saving, right? So here we're just going to have this right here, and then in between it, we're going to use the loader icon. Loader 2, I'm going to use this icon, and then I'll close it, and the text to be displayed will be saving. If it is not loading, then we should display something else, which is this text that will take create notes. Oh, this is supposed to be colon, not quotes. Okay, let me format this and then let me explain. So right here, this is where the action is, right? So this is the container. We have this button right here. This is the entire button that we have. Now this button, the type is submit, and we disabled loading. So here we're using a ternary operator to check if it is loading. That means if loading is active, then we want to display this, which is this loader icon and the text showing saving. If it is not loading, we want to display this in the button, create notes. It's just as simple as that. All right, so we're done with the create notes page. So now let's check this. If I click on this, okay, I'm supposed to see something here. Let's check our console. E is not defined. Where? It is not defined here. All right, there's a typo error here. e.target.value. It is not defined here. All right, so let's see what we have. Okay, so now this is where the error is coming from. When you use onChange, let me delete this so that we'll just redo it. OnChange, we want to check if there's an event. We'll pass event as a parameter. Then we'll use the setter function set title to update it if there is a change. So e.target.value, that is what we're supposed to have there. And we're going to make the same changes for this. OnChange, pass our event as parameter. Then here set content e.target.value. Now this is what we're going to see. So let me close this, and you can see now if I click on this, it will lead us back to our own page. And if I click on this, you can see create new note, capture your thoughts, the title here, and the create note here. So let us style so that it's going to look more presentable. So we'll start with the first div tag. Minimum height is screen size. The background color be white. Container max of auto padding of 4. We'll set padding of y to 4 as well. Then we have this div tag here. Max width will be 2XL. And I'm going to set the margin on x-axis to auto as well. Now for this link here, display would be inline flex. Items at the center. Gap will take 2. Font size will be medium. Then the text size should be small. Text color, slate 500. When you hover on it, the text slate 900 as well. And then we'll have transition on the color. Margin bottom will take 8, and then we want it in group. Okay, now to the arrow icon, I'll set the width to 4 and the height as well to 4. I'll set transition transform. Then we'll have group hover, negative translate on x-axis. We'll set that to 1. Okay, now to the form card. Background color as well will be white. We'll set a border around it. Border color will take slate 200, rounded 2XL, shadow, then overflow, we'll set it to 18. Then we have padding here at 8, and also I'll set the margin bottom here to 8. Then for the H2 tag, we're going to set the text size to 2XL. The font should take bold because it's a header. Then the color of the text should take this color code. Then for the text should be small. The text color should take 500, and then we'll set margin top of 1. Then to our form itself, we'll add spacing, space of Y to be 6. Then for this div tag, we'll also add space on Y to be 2. For the label, which is holding the title, the text size will be small and the font will be semi-bold. Text color should take slate 700, and then it should be block. Now to the input field. For this input field, we should have a placeholder as well, something that the user is going to see so that they can have an idea of what they want to fill. So here we're going to have enter a title, and then let us style. So for the styling, we'll set the width to full, padding on X to be 4, padding on Y 2.5, background of white. We'll set a border. We'll have border color as slits. Then we'll have the border radius to be large. The text that would be inside the input field, we'll take this color code. And then we'll have the placeholder. We'll set the color of the text as well. So this color code. Now when is on focus, that means when the input field is active. So on focus, outline should take none. On focus, the ring should take 2. When it's on focus as well, the ring color should be blue, 500. And when it's on focus as well, the border should take blue, 500. Then we'll add the transition to all. So that is for the first input field. Now the second input field is going to take the same styling. So I'm just going to copy this here, and I'm going to paste it right here in the label. Okay, copy this class name and then paste it here. Now this label has no text, so it's supposed to take contents. I think I deleted that. It was a mistake. Also, the spacing that we have here, we're going to add it here as well. Okay, so we're using the same styling that we have here, and we're going to use the same styling for the input field as well. I'm going to copy the styling that is here. Copy this, and then I'm going to paste it right here in the text area. Okay, next is the form action. We'll set the display here to flex, justify end, padding top of 4. Now for the button, so for this now, the button display will be flex. We want the button at the center, so item center, justify center as well. We'll set a gap of 2. Then the border radius, we'll set it to large. Background will be blue, 600. Padding on X will be 8, while padding on Y will be 2.5. The text size will be set to small. The fonts will be semi-bold. Text color should take white. And then we want a shadow, just a medium size shadow. So then we want transition. Now if you hover on the button, we want to display a different background color. So background color, we'll set it to blue, 700. And then for disabled, we'll set the opacity to 70. So opacity here will take 70, not 75. Also, disabled, cursor not allowed. Now for this loader icon, we need to style it as well. I'll set the width to 4 and the height will be set to 4 as well. Now for this text area, we need to set the height. So we'll set the height to 48 and then resize will be set to none. So when you check now, this is what you should see on the screen. Create new notes, capture your thoughts. This is the title and then this is the content. As you can see, the border around this input field has this color, but when it's on focus, that means when it's active, you can see what we have. The border color changes, just like this as well. Okay, so let us create a note. I'm going to name the title notes. Let me just say Zuli Diary, and then the contents will just be Zuli Diary contents. Then if I hit this button now, you can see we're getting a notification, note created successfully. And this note, the current note is the first thing that we're seeing, right? If I hit this button now, I can delete it. If I click on this is where it's going to lead me to. If I click on back to notes, you can see that this works perfectly well. Now, the next thing we need to work on is the note details page. And it's also where we're going to be updating our note from. So when you hit this, it will lead you to the note details page. But what exactly is in the content of the note details page? Let's work on that. So I'm going to close this as well. Then I'm going to open the note details page. Now for our note details page, we need to create a state variable that's going to store the notes, like the specific notes that we want to view the details, and also a setter function to update when the details change. So set notes, and by default use state. We initialize this with null. Then we're going to create the loading states for the initial data that we want to fetch. So we're going to have const loading, set loading, use states, we'll set it to true. Then we are going to create a state variable to provide feedback when we update the details of the notes. So saving, set 7, use states, we initialize this with false. Also, we need to create navigation. So once it has saved, we'll use the use navigate function. Now we need to import this use navigate function. Import use navigate from React router DOM. All right, this is done. Now we want to view the details of the page. We need to grab the dynamic ID from the URL. So we're going to have const ID will be equals to use params from React router DOM. So this is going to grab the dynamic ID that we have in the URL parameter. Next step now is to create the function that is going to fetch the details of the notes. So here we're going to wrap it with use effects. So we are using use effects because it is a code that runs based on side effects. In this case, the side effect is that the page would load, then it will now get the data. So use effects gets triggered on mount. So if the ID changes, the fetch current notes the data. So we're using use effects. Then we'll now create our function. The function is going to be an asynchronous function. So const fetch notes will be equal to async arrow function with an empty parameter. Then we'll have our try catch statement. So in our try block, we're going to use the get request to ask the server for one specific note, and we're going to insert the ID of that note that we're getting from our URL parameter. And we're going to save that in this variable. So const response will be equal to await API from our library dot get method, open bracket, backtick. Then we'll have slash notes slash $, then we insert the ID. Okay, so if this works, we want to put the note from the database into our local state. So set notes will take response.data. If there's any error with our try block, our catch block is going to display that error, and it will log it in console, and it's going to display error fetching notes, error. Also, we're going to use the finally statement here because we want to ensure that no matter if the request worked or failed, we want to turn off the loading spinner, and this will allow our component to stop showing a loading screen basically. So we're going to have set loading to false. Now after this function that we've created, we're now going to call the function that we've defined. So fetch notes function, we'll call it here. Then also here, after the curly braces, we'll pass a dependency array, which is going to be the ID. This dependency array tells React to only rerun the entire effect if the ID in the URL changes or if the user switches from node A to node B. So it ensures that new data is fetched when there is a change. Basically, that's why we're passing ID as the dependency array. Okay. Now, I said that in this notes details as well, we're going to be updating our notes, basically. This is where we're going to update notes. So we need to create a function that is going to undo that as well. Okay, so we're just going to create an asynchronous function, and then we're going to name it undo changes or undo updates. So const undo updates will be an async arrow function. Then we need to do some validations. So we need to ensure that there are no white spaces from start to end. So we would use an if statement to check if not notes dot title dot stream or not notes dot content dot stream function, then would return title and content cannot be empty. So toast dot toast from React toast dot error would display title and error cannot be empty. Then would return right here. Okay, so this is the validation. Now we're going to set saving to true so that the user does not click save twice. So we'll have set saving to true. Okay, so we've set all the rows now. Now let us work on the actual saving, right? We'll use the try-catch statement, and then we're going to use put requests because we're updating an existing node, and we're going to pass the ID into the URL so that the backend knows which nodes to change. Okay, and then we're going to send the actual nodes, which is the object. So here we'll have await API dot put method open bracket backtick slash nodes slash $, and then ID, then we'll add a comma notes. So if this is saved successfully, we should display a toast notification. So toast.success notes updated successfully. So this toast notification that we're using, we need to import it too. So import toasts from React hot toasts. Okay, success SUCs. Yes. Okay, so once it's saved successfully, we need to send the user back to the home page, which is where our main library is. Now, if there's any error whatsoever with the try block, our catch block should send a message. So you should just use this message, error updating notes. And also we should have a toast.error updating notes as well. And then we're going to use the finally statement. And in this statement, we're going to set saving to false. Okay. Now this loading that we've been talking about, we need to actually set it. So if loading, we want it to return open brackets, we'll have a div tag here. Inside this div tag, Ctrl Z. Inside the div tag, we want to use the loader icon. And also, we want to have a p tag that is going to display notes loading. Let me see, this loader icon has been updated, but it shouldn't be here. Okay, so import loader icon from Lucid React. This loader icon should be from Lucid React, not React hot toast. Okay. Now we're done with all the rows, fetching and everything. We need to display the UI basically. So now to the UI. This div tag that we have here is the main wrapper. Okay. And now I'll have a div tag, then another div. Then we'll have the top navigation. So we'll have a div tag here. Inside this div tag, we're going to have the link tag that will lead us back to the library once the user clicks on it. So / inside this, we'll use the arrow left icon. So we'll use this arrow left icon and it will take this text back to library. Then this is for the top. Now to the editor area, basically the div tag would be here. Then we'll have another div right here. Then we'll now have the field. Okay, so first div for the first field, we'll have our label, notes title, after this label, we'll have an input field. The type will be text. Let's have a placeholder that would say enter title. And then we'll set the value to notes.title. And then would use onChange. We'll pass our event as a parameter so that it can update our notes if there is a change. So we'll spread the notes, comma, titled will take e.target.value. Let me format so that you can see this better. So this is for the first div tag right here. Now to the second div tag. Which is for our content, right? So here we'll have our label. The label will take notes content. After this, we'll have our text area. The value here would be notes dot content. We'll use onChange. We'll pass events, then we'll set the notes to this. We'll spread the notes. Then content would be e.target.value. Okay, let me format this as well so that you would see this is the second div tag right here. This is what I just typed now. Okay, after this div tag now, we'll now move on to the action area, which will be positioned at the bottom. So we'll have a div tag that's going to wrap that. Here we'll have a button, and this button now, we're going to disable would be equal to saving. Then on click, we're going to call handle updates. All right, in between this opening and closing of the button, we're going to use a ternary operator to check if it is saving. Then we want to do this. If it isn't, then we're going to do this. Now, if it is saving, we want to have this content here, which is basically the loader icon and it text saving, right? If it isn't, we want to have this as well, the save icon with this text save changes. All right, so this is what this is going to look like. You can see that the save icon has been imported as well. Now on this notes details page, you can see right here, I clicked on the first note, back to library. If I hit on this, if I click on this, it leads me here where you can update the contents, the title, and then you can save changes. So I didn't actually make any changes per se. So let me just do notes content, new changes, updated. If I hit this save, you're going to see this notes one content updated. Okay, so the next thing we need to do now is to style. So we have this div tag right here. Minimum height will be screen, and then background slits 50. Display will be flex direction will be colon, items center, justify center. Then we have this loader icon. We'll set the class name, animate spin. The height will be set to 10, the width as well 10. The color would be blue 600. Then this p tag here, margin top of 4, text color, font medium. Then we have this here to style as well. The background color would be a slate. Then we have another div tag. Oh my god. Okay, we have another div tag right here. We would have a container, margin of auto, padding of 4, and padding of 10 on y-axis. Then we have a div tag here, max width of 3XL, then margin of all 2. Now for the top navigation, display would be flex, items, center, justify between, and then we'll have a margin bottom of 8. Now to the link tag, display will be flex, items, at the center as well. We'll set a gap of 2, font of semi-bold, text color will take slate 500. When you hover on it, text slate 900. Then the icon itself, height will be 4, width will be 4. Now, this div tag, the editing area, I'm going to set the background color to white. Border color will take slate 200. We need to set border first, so before border color. Okay. Then border radius 2XL, shadow small, overflow here will be hidden. Now we're going to set padding of 8. On medium screen, padding will be 10. Then we have this div tag for the title. We'll set margin bottom of 8. Then for this label tag, we want to use block style. Text should be small. Font bold. It should transform to uppercase. Tracking wider. Text slits 400. Margin bottom of 2. Then we have our input field right here. Width of full, text of 3XL, font of bold, text color slate 900, background of transparent, border none, focus, when it's on focus, the ring will be set to 0. Then the placeholder, the text color would be slate 200, and we'll set padding of 0. Okay. Now to the second label, I'm just going to copy the styling that we have for the first label and just paste the same thing here for the second label. Copy what we have here. No. So for this now, for this div tag, the margin bottom will take 10. Alright. But the text area, we're going to use the same styling, but we're just going to have a bit, just a little bit extra styling. Okay. And that little bit is the heights that we're going to set to 64. And then resize that will set to none. And then the text size here would be large. Okay, there's a typo error here. Where are you? It's supposed to be small. No. So it's supposed to be text, the color slate 900. Yes, same thing here. Text slate 900. All right, so this is for this. Then now to the action area, which will be positioned at the bottom. Display will be flex, justify end, border at the top, border color will take slate 100, padding top will take 8. Then we have the button. Display will be flex, items, center, gap of 2, background blue 600, text color should take white, padding on X will be 6, padding on Y will be 2.5, then rounded large, font will be semi-bold, transition on all, the shadow should just be small, then disabled, we'll set opacity to 50, and then when it's active, scale to 95. All right, next thing we need to style is this icon. We'll set the width to 4, height as well will take 4. We'll use the same styling for both icon, the loader icon and the saving icon. So here is what this is going to look like now. I think it's a little bit too bold. I don't know. Let me reduce the sizing of the text. It looks too bold to me. So in the input field, come on, 2XL. Let's see. All right, makes sense. This as well. In the text area, I think 2XL too. Yeah, this is better. So new, hit save changes, note updated successfully. Okay, so this has been updated now, right? So you can see right here, notes 1 updated. I can make changes as well. Let me say updated again. If I hit save changes, you should see that this right here is showing note 1 content updated again. Now let us delete this. Okay, so what happens when we delete this? Home page becomes very clean, right? It becomes so clean and nothing is going to be displayed. Now we need to ensure that when there's no note at all, we should be able to, the user should be able to see something, right? So let's work on that. So in our components, we're going to create another file and we're going to give it the name empty notes, basically empty note. I think that makes more sense. Empty note, and this is just to display a message saying that nothing is in the note yet. So empty notes.jsx refc. Okay, now for this empty note here, let me delete this. We'll have a div tag. Inside this div tag, we'll have the notebook icon, and we can import it. Import notebook icon from Lucid React. Okay, that's the first thing. After this closing div, we'll have an h3. Okay, and it will display no notes here. After this h3, we should now display p tag saying that your library is currently empty. Start capturing your ideas, meeting, and daily tasks. Okay, after this p tag, we're now going to have the link that would lead us to creating a page. So here it's going to take get started, and this link from React Router DOM. Come on, link from React Router DOM. Ctrl X. I need to import link from React Router DOM. Okay, so we'll set the path for this link to /creates. So that's the first thing that our user should see in the home page. So now we'll head back, we'll open our home page here, pages, home page, and we're going to mount it. But before that, let's style this empty note, right? So that we'll just go to home page, mount it, and fix it there. Display will be flex direction, colon, items at the center, justify center, padding of 20, padding x of 6, max width of small, margin of auto on x-axis. The text should be at the center, animates, in, then we'll have fade in, fade hyphen in, then we'll have zoom in as well. All right, for this div tag, the background color will take blue, very soft blue. So that will be the first one. Border radius of 2xl, padding of 6, margin bottom of 2. Now our notebook icon, we'll set the width to 12, the height as well, we take 12. Text color would be blue 600. Then we have this h3, the text will be XL, font of bold, text slits 900, margin bottom of 2. Now for the p tag, the text will be small, text color would take 500, margin bottom will take 8, and then leading relaxed. Then to this button right here, that would say get started, inline flex, justify center, items at the center as well. So items center, rounded large, background color would take blue 600, yeah. Then we'll set the width and height using padding. Text is small, font is semi-bold, text color would be white, shadow should be small. Okay, so this is the styling. Now let's mount it in the home page. Okay, so right here, before displaying this, we're going to use, we'll open our curly braces, So if notes, we want to use a ternary operator to check if the length of the notes is 0. So if notes dot length equals 0, then we want to display a div. Inside this div, we'll have this empty notes components. All right, so let's style this now. We'll set the display. We'll set this to flex, justify center, items at the center, minimum height would take 200 pixels, border would be 2, and then we'll set border dashed, then the border color slate 200, rounded 3XL, and then the background color will take white by 50. Okay, so right here we're checking notes.length is 0. Then we're going to add this as well. Okay, now this is what you should see. So when the user visits the page for the first time, they have no notes at all. This is the first thing that they should see. We have the navigation bar, we have the title here. If I click on get started, it leads me to the create notes page. If I press back, it edits. You can create new notes, you can edit, you can delete, and you can update basically. So this is the end of this tutorial. Please do well to subscribe. Don't forget to share, drop a comment on what you want me to be next. See you on the next one. Bye. Take care. I remain Zuli. Take care of yourself.